Mexican hot sauces are some of my favorite hot sauces to put on oysters, and I'm going to rank all the ones that I have in my collection from 1 to 7, starting with Tapatio, and each one's going to get a squeeze of lemon as well. Now, a lot of people in the comments said that I should try to do these kind of things with the same oysters, and lucky for you, I have a whole bunch of Orchard Point oysters left over from an open house, so that means all these Mexican hot sauces are going to be done on an Orchard Point oyster only. Orchard Point oysters are actually grown right here in the Chesapeake Bay, a little bit north of me in southern Maryland and more on the eastern side of the bay, but they're really solid oysters, and they're one of the only 2 oysters that I've given a 10 out of 10. I like them so much because while they're not very briny, they have a good amount of brine, a lot of sweetness, and they're really strong on the umami flavor overall. Now, I added some of that Tapatio to it, squeezing that lemon on there, and this was a solid combination. I'm not saying it's the best Mexican hot sauce out there yet, but man, it's in my top 4. I think I'm going to put this one at number 3 for right now. I'm trying different Mexican hot sauces and ranking them from 1 to 7 based on how they taste with an oyster, and today I'm doing salsa huichol, but the black version of it. Now, to keep the playing field level for all the sauces, I'm using the same type of oyster for each tasting, and this is an Orchard Point oyster from the middle Chesapeake Bay. That means it's going to be sweet with a little bit of umami and a little bit of brine as well. And for each oyster, I'm going to do a squeeze of lemon as well. Now, one of the most common questions I get when I eat these oysters, or when someone comes over that's never eaten an oyster before, is, should you chew the oyster? And my answer to that is yes, and here's why. Because when you just slurp it down, you don't really taste anything besides the brine and possibly the hot sauce too, but when you chew it, you get all different types of flavors, including the sweetness of the adductor muscle and the umami of the oyster itself. Now, that's why I do these hot sauces, because some hot sauces pair really well with the flavors of the oyster, and sometimes the lemon or the lime can really bring it out even more. But let me tell you, salsa huichol black is not one that pairs well with oysters. I'm going to put this one down at number 7. I'm trying Mexican hot sauces and ranking them from 1st to 7th based on how they go with an oyster, and today I'm doing Black Label Valentina. Now, if you've never had Black Label Valentina, it's the spicy version of the Yellow Label Valentina, and I feel it's a hot sauce that a lot of people sleep on. Now, just like all the other Mexican hot sauce videos, this is an Orchard Point oyster, and I'm also going to be adding a lemon to this. Now, a question that I get asked a ton is what kind of knife to use for oysters, and it really depends on what kind of oyster you're shucking. For smaller oysters like this one, I like a smaller knife with a sharper tip because I feel like it does a better job of getting into that shell. But for bigger oysters, I do love the toadfish oyster knife as well. So for me, the type of knife you're going to use for an oyster depends on what kind of oysters you normally shuck. Now, back to the hot sauce, I put a good amount of Black Label Valentina on there, squeezed that lemon, and gave it a taste. And I like this one a lot because it paired really well with the oyster, and I like the added kick of the Black Label Valentina. Look, I got to bump Tapatio down to number 4, and I'm putting Black Label Valentina at number 3. This is a series where I'm trying different Mexican hot sauces and ranking them from 1 all the way down to 7 based on how they pair with an oyster. And today I'm using one of my favorite hot sauces, and that's going to be Valentina. And to be more specific, it's actually the Yellow Label Valentina, because if you didn't know, there's a Black Label Valentina and there's a Blue Label Valentina as well. Now, I've seen a few comments say that you ruin the taste of an oyster when you add hot sauce. I disagree. I really feel like there are some hot sauces and just sauces in general that really enhance the flavor of the oyster. Now, don't get me wrong, I still like eating oysters without any sauce, without any lime or lemon juice too, but there are definitely some hot sauces that make it taste better or just make it pop a little bit more. So this one's going to get a lemon, and it's also going to get some Valentina on it, and I'm going to give it a try. Look, this is one of my favorite hot sauces, period, and on an oyster, I think it tastes absolutely delicious. Valentina is going number 2 on the list.
That's up there.
I'm trying different Mexican hot sauces and rating them 1 through 7 based on how they pair with an oyster, and today I'm going with salsa huichol. Now, in an earlier video, I did do the salsa huichol black, so this is different than the salsa huichol black, and when people say salsa huichol, this is what a lot of people are referencing, I believe. And just like the previous videos, I'm trying to keep everything pretty consistent, so I'll use a lemon as well as the salsa huichol, but also these are on Orchard Point oysters, which is one of the 2 oysters that I've rated a 10 out of 10 so far in my oyster taste test series. Now, just to be clear, I have had all of these hot sauces before. This is not the first time I'm trying any of these Mexican hot sauces, but I really want to put them in order so you guys know which ones are my favorite hot sauces. to pair with oysters. Now, your favorite hot sauce, or if you even want hot sauce on an oyster, is 100% up to you, but this could be a good list if you've never tried them before. And right away, I remembered why I like salsa huichol. It reminds me a little bit of Cholula, but to me, it has a better rounded flavor, a good amount of vinegar, and I'm gonna put this at number 2 and move everything else down a spot. This is part 6 of me ranking different Mexican hot sauces and how they taste on oysters, and today I'm trying the Blue Label Valentina. A lot of people in the comments said the Blue Label Valentina is made specifically for seafood, so theoretically this should go really well with an oyster. Now, to keep it consistent again, I'm going to go ahead and use another Orchard Point oyster, and also I'll be squeezing a lemon on there because that's what I've done for every other oyster in this series so far. Now, a lot of y'all have probably realized that at this point, I have a ton of different hot sauces, and they're actually in a big box in my fridge, but someone commented that I shouldn't be keeping them in the fridge and that it's best to keep hot sauces not refrigerated in a cupboard. I don't know. I've always refrigerated hot sauces, and I'm kind of curious what other people do as well. But back to the Blue Label Valentina, it's time for that taste test, and I absolutely love this hot sauce on an oyster. It's like Valentina, but it's got a little bit more vinegar and citrus to it too, and it brings out a lot of the sweetness in the oyster. Overall, this is going to be my number 1 choice for Mexican hot sauces on an oyster.
Yeah, that's the best.
This is a series where I try different Mexican hot sauces on an oyster and rank them 1 to 7. And today I'm trying salsa buffalo. Now, a lot of people recommended that I try this one, and I actually had this one in my refrigerator already. So I was curious to see where I thought it would rank 1 to 7. Now, if you've been following along, you know that only number 6 is opened up. And based on my previous taste tests I've done with salsa buffalo, I don't think this is going to be the 6th best Mexican hot sauce. So I may have to do some reordering. And that brings me to the next point. I have read so many different comments about different Mexican hot sauces I have to try, including Cholula, of course. And I think what I'm gonna have to do is, as I try more Mexican hot sauces, I'm gonna have to update this top 7 list. So if you do have suggestions, tell me in the comments, and I'll make sure I save the comment so I can respond to it later when I try that hot sauce. Now, back to the salsa buffalo taste test. One thing I noticed right away, it was a super thick sauce, and it was a little bit stubborn coming out of the bottle. As far as the taste though, it was vinegary, a little bit of salt in there too. It was kind of rustic flavored. I like this. It was different than the other hot sauces I tasted. I'm actually gonna put this up at number 2 and move everything down 1.
That's a good one.